Have you ever just stopped and wondered, what exactly is time? It feels so simple, right? It's the ticking of a clock, the turning of a page, the passing of a day. But if you really think about it, time is perhaps the very first and maybe the greatest mystery humanity has ever faced. Before we had words for it, before we had science or philosophy, we felt it. It was the silent partner in every hunt, the unseen force that ripened the fruit on the trees, and the gentle hand that painted wrinkles on the faces of our elders. Imagine being one of our earliest ancestors living out on the open plains. Your world wasn't measured in minutes or hours. It was measured in light and darkness. The most fundamental rhythm you knew was the grand, cosmic heartbeat of the universe itself. The first beat was the sun rising, painting the sky with impossible colors, promising warmth and signaling the start of the hunt, the gathering, the day's work. This was your first clock, the daylight. It told you when to be active and when to seek shelter. Then came the second beat, the sun setting. As it dipped below the horizon, the world transformed. The familiar landscape became a place of shadows and strange noises, but the darkness wasn't empty. It brought its own celestial guide, the moon. Night after night, you'd watch it, a silent, glowing companion. You'd see it grow from a sliver of light to a brilliant, full circle, and then slowly wane back into nothingness, only to be reborn again. The cycle, this predictable transformation, wasn't just a pretty sight. It was a pattern, a rhythm you could count on. It was one of the first ways we started to measure longer stretches of time, predicting the tides and marking the passage of weeks, but the show didn't stop there. On those clear, moonless nights, the entire sky would burst into a glittering tapestry of stars. At first, they might seem like a chaotic sprinkle of diamonds, but as generations watched, they started to see patterns too. They saw constellations that moved across the sky like a grand celestial parade. Some stars, the ones we now call planets, wandered on their own unique paths. And most importantly, they noticed that the entire stellar backdrop shifted with the seasons. Certain star patterns would appear just before the rains came, or when the herds began their migration. This was more than just a nightly spectacle. It was the universe handing us a calendar, a guide for survival. The stars told us when to plant, when to harvest, and when to prepare for the cold. These grand cycles, the day and night, the waxing and waning of the moon, the slow, majestic dance of the constellations, were our first teachers about time. They taught us that time wasn't just a straight line into the unknown. It was cyclical. It had patterns. It repeated. The sun always returned, the moon was always reborn, and the seasons always came back in their turn. This idea was revolutionary. It gave our ancestors a sense of predictability in a wild and often unpredictable world. It gave them the ability to plan, to anticipate, and to build a future based on the lessons of the past. Armed with this cosmic knowledge, we started to make our own marks. We weren't just passive observers anymore. We began to actively record the passage of time. Think about the earliest calendars. They weren't fancy apps on a phone. They were notches carved into bone or wood. An ancient wolf bone, found in the Congo and dated to about 20,000 years ago, is covered in a series of carved notches. Some archaeologists believe it might be one of the first lunar calendars ever created, a physical record of the moon's phases. Each notch was a day, a tangible piece of time captured and held. Then came the grand monuments. Structures like Stonehenge in England or Newgrange in Ireland weren't just random piles of stone. They were colossal, sophisticated observatories, built with breathtaking precision. On the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, a single beam of sunlight penetrates a narrow passage at Newgrange, illuminating the inner chamber for just a few minutes. At Stonehenge, the stones align perfectly with the rising sun on the summer solstice. These weren't just places of ritual. They were massive clocks, built to lock in with the rhythms of the sun and stars. They were a declaration that we understood the cosmic order, that we could predict it, and that we had a place within it. These early attempts to measure time were all about managing the present and predicting the near future. How many days until the full moon? How many moons until the cold returns? But As human societies grew more complex, so did our relationship with time. The cycles of nature gave us the concept of repetition, of seasons returning, but what about the line that didn't repeat? The line of a single human life. We are born, we grow, we age, and we die. This personal timeline, unlike the seasons, only goes in one direction. This realization brought forth a new, profound question. If the sun dies and is reborn every day, and the moon is reborn every month, what happens to us? Does our time simply end? This question led humanity to one of its most powerful and enduring concepts, the idea of eternity. The afterlife, reincarnation, a spiritual realm beyond the ticking clock of earthly existence. Our ancestors looked at the endless cycles of the cosmos and wondered if our own consciousness might also be part of a grand eternal cycle. The idea of eternity wasn't just a comfort. It was a way of making sense of our own finite existence within a universe that seemed to go on forever. It was a way of reconciling the straight line of a single life with the grand repeating circles of the cosmos. So, from the first moment one of our ancestors looked up at the moon and wondered when it would be full again, we began a journey to understand, to measure, and to master time. It started with the heartbeat of the cosmos, the sun, the moon, and the stars. It moved to notches on a bone, to colossal stone circles aligned with the heavens. And it led us to ponder the deepest questions of existence, of life, death, and the possibility of forever. Time isn't just something we measure. It's a concept we created, a story we've been telling ourselves since the dawn of humanity, and that story, in many ways, is the story of us. Ever wondered how ancient civilizations kept track of time without a single digital clock in sight? Forget your smartwatch for a moment, and let's journey back thousands of years to the land of the pharaohs, ancient Egypt. Here, time wasn't just a number on a screen. It was a sacred force, a divine rhythm that governed everything from the flooding of the Nile to the rituals of the gods. The Egyptians were masters of time, and their methods were nothing short of genius. So, who were these ancient timekeepers? They weren't just random people with sundials. They were highly respected priest astronomers, scholars who dedicated their lives to observing the heavens from the tops of their magnificent temples. For them, watching the sky was a religious duty. The movement of the sun, the moon, and the stars wasn't just astronomy. It was a way to understand the will of the gods and maintain cosmic order, or mat. Their earliest and most essential tool was the shadow, simple yet brilliant. They realized that as the sun moved across the sky, the shadows cast by objects moved with a predictable rhythm. This led to the invention of some of the world's first clocks. One of the earliest was the shadow clock, or gnomon. Imagine a simple vertical rod stuck in the ground. By marking where its shadow fell at different points in the day, they could divide daylight into specific hours. It was a basic but effective way to organize daily tasks and temple ceremonies. But the Egyptians refined this concept further. They created more sophisticated portable shadow clocks. Some were L-shaped pieces of wood with markings. You'd align the long arm towards the east in the morning, and the shadow from the crossbar would indicate the hour. Then, at midday, you'd flip it around to face west for the afternoon. It was like a pocket watch for the ancient world, allowing merchants, officials, and architects to keep time on the go. These weren't just crude estimates. They were precise instruments born from centuries of careful observation. Of course, shadow clocks had one major limitation. They didn't work at night. And for a civilization that believed so much happened in the darkness of the underworld, tracking the night hours was crucial. This is where another incredible invention comes in, the water clock, or clepsydra. These were typically stone vessels, shaped like a bucket, with a small hole near the bottom. They would be filled with water, which would drip out at a constant rate. Inside the vessel were markings that corresponded to the passing hours as the water level dropped. Priests would use these to time their nightly rituals and ensure prayers were offered at the correct moment. Now, you can't talk about time and knowledge in Egypt without mentioning the great god Thoth, often depicted with the head of an ibis or a baboon. Thoth was the divine master of wisdom, writing, magic, and crucially, the measurement of time. He was seen as the celestial timekeeper, the one who recorded the passing of years and the reigns of pharaohs. The Egyptians believed it was Thoth who gave them the knowledge to create calendars and clocks. The priest astronomers who tracked the stars were, in a way, his earthly agents, carrying out his divine work of maintaining order in the universe. This brings us to their grandest timekeeping devices of all, the pyramids. We often think of them as just tombs for the pharaohs, but they were so much more. They were monumental solar and stellar time machines, built with astonishing astronomical precision. Take the Great Pyramid of Giza, for example. Its four sides are almost perfectly aligned with the four cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. This wasn't an accident. This precise alignment allowed the pyramid to function as a giant sundial. As the sun moved, the massive structure cast a slow-moving shadow across the Giza Plateau. By observing the length and position of this shadow, the Egyptians could determine not just the time of day, but also the time of year, pinpointing the solstices and equinoxes with remarkable accuracy. This was vital for their agricultural calendar, helping them predict the annual flooding of the Nile, which was the lifeblood of their entire civilization. But the pyramids' connection to time went even deeper, connecting them to the stars. The ancient Egyptians were avid stargazers. They noticed that certain stars and constellations appeared and disappeared from the night sky in a predictable annual cycle. The most important of these was Sirius, or as they called it, Sopdet. Its heliacal rising the day it first became visible on the eastern horizon just before sunrise after being hidden for about 70 days was a massive event. It coincided almost perfectly with the beginning of the Nile's flood. This stellar event became the anchor for their entire 365-day civil calendar, one of the first of its kind in history. The pyramids were built to reflect this cosmic connection. The so-called air shafts within the Great Pyramid weren't for ventilation. They were stellar alignment shafts. The southern shaft in the King's Chamber, for instance, pointed directly towards the constellation of Orion, which was associated with the god Osiris. The northern shaft pointed to the circumpolar stars, the undying stars that never set, representing eternal life. These shafts were cosmic portals, designed to guide the pharaoh's soul to its rightful place among the gods in the celestial afterlife. The pyramid wasn't just a tomb. It was a launchpad to eternity, a machine designed to sync the pharaoh's journey with the rhythm of the cosmos itself. So, from the simple shadow cast by a stick to the monumental alignment of the pyramids, the ancient Egyptians developed a profound and sophisticated understanding of time. It was a sacred science, a way to connect their earthly existence with the divine cycles of the sun and stars. Their innovations laid the groundwork for how we measure our days, years, and lives even today. They were true pioneers, the original masters of time. The world was supposed to end, asteroids were coming, and everyone was stocking up on canned goods. It was a wild time, right? But what if I told you that whole end of the world thing was a massive misunderstanding of one of the most brilliant calendar systems ever created? Today, we're diving deep into the mysteries of the Mayan long count calendar to uncover what it really says about time, creation, and cosmic cycles. So grab your explorer's hat because we're about to decode the true meaning of 2012. First, let's get one thing straight. The Maya never predicted the apocalypse. What they did have was an incredibly sophisticated understanding of time. While we mostly think in terms of days, months, and years, the Maya tracked time on a cosmic scale. Their system, known as the long count, wasn't just for scheduling festivals. It was a way to map out the entire history of the universe as they understood it. So, how did it work? The long count is built on cycles within cycles, a bit like a set of cosmic Russian dolls. The basic unit is the kin, which is 1 day. 20 kin make a winal. 18 winal make a ton, which is roughly 1 year. 20 ton make a keaton, and 20 keaton make a buckton. A baked ton is a massive cycle of about 394 years. Stay with me because this is where it gets really interesting. The Maya believed that the universe operates in grand cycles of creation and renewal. According to their inscriptions, the previous creation cycle began on a date we'd write as 0.0. This date, 13.0.0.0 in the long count, wasn't an endpoint. It was a turnover point. Think of it like the odometer on your car hitting all nines and then resetting to all zeros. The car doesn't explode. It just starts a new count. For the Maya, the end of the 13th Baektan was the completion of a magnificent world age, a time to reset the cosmic clock and begin a new era of creation. It was a moment of profound renewal, not destruction. It was a celebration, a milestone marking the transition from one great cycle to the next. The idea of cosmic resets wasn't unique to the 13 Baektan cycle. The Maya believed in even larger cycles. Their inscriptions hint at time frames stretching millions, even billions of years into the past and future. They had names for periods like the Picton, Kalabtan, and Kinchiltan, each exponentially larger than the last. This shows a civilization that was thinking on a truly astronomical scale. They weren't just farmers and builders. They were master astronomers and mathematicians who saw themselves as part of a vast repeating cosmic dance. This perspective is profoundly different from our linear view of time, which has a distinct beginning and a potential end. The Mayan worldview was cyclical. For them, endings were always new beginnings. The universe didn't just end. It was reborn, refreshed, and renewed. The patterns they observed in the sky, the rising and setting of the sun, the phases of the moon, the long journey of Venus, all reinforced this idea of eternal cycles. So, what was the real prophecy for 2012? It was a message of transition. It was an invitation to reflect on the completion of a major epoch and to consciously step into a new one. The carved stone monuments, or stelae, that record these dates weren't doomsday clocks. They were monuments to continuity, testaments to the enduring order of the cosmos. This understanding completely reframes the 2012 phenomenon. It wasn't about surviving a cataclysm. It was about participating in a renewal. The true wisdom of the Mayan calendar isn't about predicting the future, but about understanding our place within the grand, cyclical nature of time itself. It teaches us that change is a fundamental part of the universe and that every ending is simply the seed of a new beginning. So the next time you hear someone mention the 2012 prophecy, you can smile and share the real story. It's a story not of fear, but of incredible intellectual achievement and a deep spiritual connection to the cosmos. The Maya left us a legacy not of doom, but of hope and the promise of endless renewal. Today we're diving deep into one of the most astonishing archaeological discoveries of all time. Imagine a device so advanced, so out of place in its time, that it completely rewrites what we thought we knew about ancient history. This isn't science fiction. It's the Antikythera Mechanism. Picture this. The year is 1901. Sponge divers are exploring an ancient Roman shipwreck off the coast of the Greek island, Antikythera. Amidst the marble statues and pottery, they pull up a corroded lump of bronze. It looked like just another piece of junk, destined to be forgotten. For decades, it sat in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, mostly ignored. But as the encrusted layers were slowly cleaned away, something incredible was revealed, a complex system of interlocking gears and dials. It took more than a century of painstaking research, using cutting-edge X-ray and CT scanning technology for scientists to finally piece together the puzzle. What they found was mind-blowing. This device, dating back to around the 2nd century BC, was an incredibly sophisticated astronomical calculator. Some have even called it the world's first analog computer. So, what exactly did it do? This wasn't just a simple calendar. The Antikythera mechanism could predict the positions of the sun, the moon, and the 5 planets known to the ancient Greeks: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. It could track the phases of the moon with stunning accuracy, and even more amazingly, it could predict solar and lunar eclipses. It even had a dial to show the timing of major athletic events like the Olympic Games. Think about the level of mechanical and astronomical knowledge required to build this. The mechanism contained at least 30 precision-engineered bronze gears, some with teeth just over a millimeter long, all housed in a wooden case about the size of a shoebox. A user would turn a handle on the side, setting the date, and the pointers on the front and back dials would move to show the celestial positions for that day. It was a mechanical model of the cosmos as the Greeks understood it. The complexity is staggering. For example, it accounted for the variable motion of the moon using an ingenious system of epicyclic gearing, a pin-and-slot mechanism, that modeled the moon's elliptical orbit. This is a level of mechanical engineering that we didn't think existed until the clockmakers of 14th century Europe. Over 1,500 years later, this discovery shattered our understanding of ancient technology. It proves that the ancient Greeks possessed a grasp of mechanical science that was far more advanced than previously believed. It's a single, surviving example of a technology that was otherwise completely lost to history. So, who could have built such a marvel? The inscriptions on the device point to a Greek origin, likely from the island of Rhodes or Syracuse, both major centers of astronomy and engineering in the ancient world. The great philosopher Cicero even wrote about two such machines built by the legendary Archimedes, the brilliant mathematician and inventor from Syracuse. Could this be a device designed by Archimedes himself or one of his students? It's a tantalizing possibility. Archimedes was famous for his levers, pulleys, and war machines, but his work on mechanical spheres that modeled the heavens was equally renowned. One of his devices was said to have been taken to Rome after his death. The shipwreck where the mechanism was found was a Roman vessel, possibly carrying looted treasures from Greece back to Rome. The timeline fits perfectly. Another prime candidate is the astronomer Hipparchus of Rhodes. He's considered one of the greatest astronomers of antiquity, having developed the first known model for the sun and moon's motion and compiled the first comprehensive star catalog. The astronomical cycles embedded within the mechanism's gears align closely with Hipparchus's theories. It's very likely that the device was based on his groundbreaking work, even if he wasn't a hands-on craftsman who built it. Whether it was Archimedes, Hipparchus, or another unknown genius, the creation of the Antikythera Mechanism represents the pinnacle of a lost tradition of mechanical science. This raises an even bigger question. If they could build this, what else did they create? We have written accounts from ancient authors describing all sorts of automata, moving statues, and other mechanical wonders. For a long time, historians dismissed these stories as myths or exaggerations. But the Antikythera Mechanism proves they weren't just stories. They were real. This device is a ghost from a lost world of technology. Imagine a world where this kind of mechanical engineering wasn't lost, where it continued to develop. How different would history be? The Industrial Revolution might have started 1,000 years earlier. It's a fascinating what-if to consider. But the mystery deepens. The astronomical knowledge encoded in the mechanism is incredibly detailed. It's based on centuries of careful observation. The Greeks inherited a great deal of their astronomical data from the Babylonians and the Egyptians. This leads to an even more profound question. Was the Antikythera Mechanism the culmination of Greek genius alone? Or was it the product of knowledge passed down from even older, forgotten civilizations? Think about it. The science within this device is the endpoint of a long chain of discovery. It's the refined product of generations of skywatchers and thinkers. While the mechanical engineering seems uniquely Greek, the astronomical theories it models have roots that stretch back much further, into the ancient Near East. It's a beautiful synthesis of different cultures and streams of knowledge, all coming together in one extraordinary machine. The Antikythera Mechanism is more than just a rusty artifact. It's a message in a bottle from our ancient ancestors. It tells us that they were not primitive people, but brilliant innovators, capable of creating things that still have the power to awe and inspire us today. It reminds us how much of our own history can be lost, and how one single discovery can change everything. It's a humbling and thrilling piece of our shared human story, a testament to the timeless power of curiosity and ingenuity. What other secrets are still buried beneath the waves or hidden under the sands, waiting to be discovered? The Antikythera Mechanism is proof that the past is full of surprises and that we still have so much to learn. Thanks for joining me on this incredible journey back in time. Have you ever looked up at the stars and felt a connection to something ancient, something that stretches far beyond our own lives? What if I told you that thousands of years ago, ancient Indian sages didn't just look at the stars, they mapped them, understood their movements, and developed a concept of time so vast it makes our modern calendars feel like a brief footnote? Today, we're diving deep into the cosmic clocks of ancient India, a world where time isn't just a straight line, but a grand, repeating cycle of cosmic ages. Forget what you know about seconds, minutes, and hours. We're talking about the yugas. The ancient texts describe a great cycle, or Mahayuga, lasting an astonishing 4.32 million years. This Mahayuga is divided into 4 distinct ages, or yugas, each with its own unique character. It all begins with the Satya Yuga, the Golden Age. This is an era of truth, purity, and enlightenment that lasts for 1.728 million years. In the Satya Yuga, humanity is at its peak. People are naturally virtuous, spiritually connected, and live long, harmonious lives. There's no crime, no greed, just a deep understanding of the universe and our place within it. But as the cosmic wheel turns, we enter the Treta Yuga, the Silver Age. This era lasts for 1.296 million years. Virtue begins to decline, but only slightly. People are still noble and righteous, but they now need rituals and sacrifices to maintain their connection to the divine. This is the age of great kings and epic tales, like the Ramayana. Next comes the Dwapara Yuga, the Bronze Age, which spans 864,000 years. Things get more complex. Virtue and vice are now in equal measure. People become more driven by desire and ambition. Knowledge becomes divided, and conflicts arise. This is the setting for another great epic, the Mahabharata, a story that perfectly captures the moral and ethical dilemmas of this age. Finally, we arrive in the Kali Yuga, the Iron Age, where we are said to be living right now. This is the shortest and darkest of the ages, lasting 432,000 years. Virtue is at its lowest point. The world is filled with conflict, ignorance, greed, and materialism. People's spiritual awareness is diminished, and life is short and full of struggle. It sounds a bit grim, doesn't it? But here's the beautiful part. Even in the darkest age, the seed of light remains. The Kali Yuga is also an age of opportunity, where even small acts of goodness and spiritual seeking can yield immense results. And at the end of this cycle, the universe is dissolved, only to be reborn, starting once again with a new golden age, a new Satya Yuga. The cycle of destruction and creation is endless. This cyclical view of time wasn't just a philosophical idea. It was deeply tied to a profound understanding of the cosmos. And this brings us to one of the most incredible achievements of ancient Indian science, the astronomical observatories. Let's travel to Jaipur, India, to a place that looks like a giant, otherworldly sculpture park. This is Jantar Mantar. Built in the early 18th century by Maharaja Jai Singh II, it's not just art. It's a collection of massive astronomical instruments made of stone and masonry, and it's astonishingly accurate. Take the Samrat Yantra, the supreme instrument. It's a massive sundial over 90 feet high. Its shadow moves at a visible pace about the width of a person's hand every minute. It can measure time down to an accuracy of 2 seconds. 2 seconds, using just stone, geometry, and the sun. This wasn't just for telling time. It was for mapping the stars, predicting eclipses, and tracking the movement of celestial bodies with a precision that was unheard of for its time. There are other instruments here too, each designed for a specific astronomical task, like finding the position of a star or measuring the celestial coordinates of planets. What Jantar Mantar proves is that the ancient Indian understanding of time and the cosmos wasn't just mythology. It was backed by meticulous observation, advanced mathematics, and brilliant engineering. These sages weren't just dreamers. They were scientists, watching the heavens to understand the grand clockwork of the universe. So we have these vast cosmic cycles, the yugas, and we have the physical proof of advanced astronomical knowledge in places like Jantar Mantar. But what does it all mean on a personal level? This is where the philosophy gets really interesting. In this worldview, the time we experience every day, our past, present, and future, is considered asterisk, Maya asterisk, or illusion. Think of it like a movie playing on a screen. The story feels real, the characters feel real, but it's ultimately a projection of light. The ancient sages taught that our perception of time as a linear progression is part of this grand illusion. The real you, the true self, or asterisk atman asterisk, is eternal and exists outside of this flow of time. This idea is deeply connected to the concept of rebirth or reincarnation. If the universe itself goes through endless cycles of birth, death, and renewal, then so does the individual soul. We are born into this world, live our lives, and when the body perishes, the soul moves on to a new life. This isn't a random process. It's guided by karma, the law of cause and effect. The actions you take in this life shape the circumstances of your next one. The ultimate goal, then, is to break free from this cycle of birth and rebirth, which is called asterisk samsara asterisk. It's about waking up from the dream of Maya. How? By realizing that your true nature is not the temporary self caught in time, but the timeless, eternal consciousness that is one with the universe. It's about achieving asterisk moksha asterisk, or liberation. So when you combine these three ideas, the cyclical yugas, the scientific observation of the cosmos, and the philosophy of time as an illusion, you get a perspective on life that is both humbling and empowering. Humbling because it shows us we are part of a cosmic dance that is billions of years old. And empowering because it tells us that within us lies the key to transcending time itself. We are not just fleeting moments, we are echoes of eternity. What a journey! From cosmic ages lasting millions of years to the stillness of the eternal soul. Ancient India gave the world a profound way of looking at existence, one that continues to inspire awe and wonder today. It reminds us that maybe time isn't chasing us. We are simply dancing with it in a cycle that never truly ends. Without smartphones, without telescopes, how did they know when to plant, when to harvest, when to celebrate? It turns out they weren't just watching, they were building massive, intricate clocks made of stone, perfectly aligned with the cosmos. Today, we're re-embarking on a journey back in time to uncover the secrets of these ancient solar observatories and ask a mind-bending question. Did our ancestors embed a global calendar into the very fabric of our world? Let's start our adventure in a place you've definitely heard of, Stonehenge. Rising from the Salisbury Plain in England, these colossal stones have puzzled humanity for centuries. We often think of it as a place of mysterious rituals, but Stonehenge is, first and foremost, a masterpiece of astronomical engineering. Imagine standing there on the longest day of the year, the summer solstice. As the sun rises, it appears directly over the heel stone, a solitary monolith standing just outside the main circle. Its first rays pierce through the heart of the monument, flooding the central altar stone with light. It's a breathtaking spectacle, and it's no accident. This alignment happens every single year, a celestial appointment kept for over 4,500 years. But Stonehenge doesn't just celebrate the summer solstice. The entire layout is a complex calendar. The arrangement of the stones also marks the winter solstice sunset, the shortest day of the year, signaling the slow return of the sun and the promise of spring. Researchers believe the 56 pits surrounding the circle, known as the Aubrey Holes, may have been used to predict lunar eclipses. It was a complete celestial calculator, allowing its builders to track the sun, the moon, and the changing of the seasons with incredible precision. This wasn't just for show, it was essential for survival. It told them when to sow their seeds and when to reap their harvests. It was the rhythm of their lives, written in stone. Now, let's travel thousands of miles south, from the green fields of England to the stark, arid landscapes of the Egyptian desert. Here, long before the first stone of Stonehenge was ever raised, another, even older astronomical site was built, Nabta Playa. Around 7,000 years ago, a cattle herding culture created a small stone circle, often called the world's first astronomical observatory. It's much smaller and simpler than Stonehenge, but its purpose is just as profound. The stones at Nabta Playa align with the rising sun on the summer solstice, a crucial event in a region dependent on seasonal monsoon rains. The alignment at Nabta Playa was a beacon of hope. When the sun hit that specific point, it signaled the coming of the life-giving rains that would turn the barren desert into a temporary pasture for their cattle. It was a calendar that meant the difference between life and death. What's truly astonishing is that these two cultures, separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years, independently developed the same fundamental idea: to use monumental stones to track the sun's journey and mark the solstices. It speaks to a universal human need to understand our place in the cosmos and to find order in the universe. And it wasn't just in England and Egypt. This celestial architecture is a global phenomenon. In Ireland, the 5,200-year-old Newgrange Passage tomb is a marvel. On the winter solstice, and only on that day, a narrow beam of sunlight penetrates a small opening above the entrance, traveling down a 60-foot passage to illuminate the inner chamber. For 17 minutes, the dark tomb is bathed in golden light. It's a deeply spiritual and powerful experience, designed to mark the rebirth of the sun after the darkest time of the year. Across the Atlantic, the ancient city of Chichen Itza in Mexico provides another stunning example. The Temple of Kukulkan, often called El Castillo, is a giant four-sided pyramid that functions as a solar calendar. Twice a year, on the spring and autumn equinoxes, a remarkable event occurs. As the sun sets, the shadows cast by the pyramid steps create the illusion of a giant feathered serpent slithering down the northern staircase, its stone head waiting at the bottom. This isn't just art. It's thus a precise alignment that marks the 2 days of the year when day and night are of equal length, a pivotal moment in the Mayan agricultural calendar. From the sun-drenched temples of the Maya to the ancient tombs of Ireland and the stone circles of Africa and Europe, a pattern emerges. These aren't isolated incidents. Humanity, all over the globe, was obsessed with the sun's path. They built these incredible structures not just as temples or tombs, but as sophisticated tools for tracking time. Each monument is a chapter in a global story of celestial observation. Which brings us back to our big question. Could these sites be connected? Think about it. We have solstice alignments in the northern hemisphere and solstice alignments in the southern hemisphere. We have equinox markers across different continents. Is it possible that these ancient builders, from different cultures and different eras, were all part of a larger shared system of knowledge? Could they have been encoding a global calendar? A unified system for tracking time that spanned the entire planet? Some researchers have proposed that if you map these sites globally, you might find mathematical relationships and geometric patterns connecting them. This idea, often called a geodetic grid, suggests that ancient sites were intentionally placed at specific latitudes and longitudes, forming a network across the Earth. For example, some have pointed out that the Great Pyramid of Giza sits at a latitude that is almost exactly 1/360th of the Earth's Colmar circumference. Coincidence? Or a sign of incredibly advanced ancient knowledge of our planet's dimensions? While this is still a fringe theory for mainstream archaeology, it's a fascinating concept. What if these sites weren't just local calendars, but nodes in a worldwide network? A global clock ticking to the rhythm of the cosmos? Whether these sites are part of a lost global system or simply a result of a universal human fascination with the sky, one thing is certain: our ancestors were brilliant astronomers. They possessed a deep, intuitive understanding of the world around them. They saw the sky not as a random collection of lights, but as a grand, predictable clockwork mechanism that governed their lives. They encoded this knowledge into stone, leaving behind a legacy that continues to inspire awe and wonder today. They remind us that for millennia, humanity has looked to the stars not just for answers, but for a sense of connection to something much larger than ourselves. So the next time you see the sun rise or set, take a moment. Remember the builders of Stonehenge, Nabta Playa, and Newgrange. They were our ancestors, the first astronomers, who laid the foundation for our understanding of the universe, one stone at a time. What other secrets are hidden in plain sight, waiting to be rediscovered? The past has so much more to teach us. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and felt a sense of deep, ancient connection? A feeling that the stars have stories to tell, stories much older than our written history? Today, we read diving deep into one of the cosmos' most profound and mysterious cycles, the precession of the equinoxes. And we'll explore a mind-bending question. What if this celestial clock holds the key to a forgotten chapter of human history, one marked by cataclysm and renewal? So, what exactly is this precession? Imagine our Earth spinning like a top. As it spins, it also has a slow, subtle wobble. This wobble causes the position of the sunrise on the spring equinox to drift backward through the constellations of the zodiac. It's an incredibly slow process, moving just 1 degree every 72 years. To complete a full circle through all 12 zodiac signs takes roughly 25,920 years. This immense cycle is known as the Great Year or the Platonic Year. Now here's where it gets fascinating. Numerous ancient cultures, from the Egyptians and the Mayans to the ancient Indians with their yuga cycles, seem to have been obsessed with this number, or numbers very close to it. They built massive monuments aligned to the stars, created intricate calendars, and wove tales of world ages or epics that span thousands of years. Is it just a coincidence? Or were our ancestors far more advanced astronomers than we give them credit for? These ancient myths don't just talk about time. They often speak of its destruction. They tell of great floods, fiery cataclysms, and ages of darkness that wiped the slate clean. The Aztecs spoke of 5 suns, each world ending in disaster. The Greeks had the tale of Deucalion's flood. The Bible has Noah's Ark. Nearly every culture has a story of a great cataclysm. Could these be more than just myths? Could they be fragmented memories of real events passed down through generations? Let's connect this to the Great Year. What if the end of one of these 26,000-year cycles, or perhaps a significant point within it, coincides with periods of immense geological instability on Earth? Some researchers propose that catastrophic events, like pole shifts, massive solar flares, or cometary impacts, might be cyclical. They suggest that as our solar system journeys through different regions of the galaxy, it might pass through denser areas of cosmic debris or energetic fields, triggering chaos on Earth. Imagine a world-altering event. Not just a regional flood or earthquake, but a global cataclysm that shifts the very crust of the Earth. Such an event would trigger mega tsunamis, volcanic eruptions on a scale we can't comprehend, and dramatic, rapid climate change. Civilizations, no matter how advanced, would be brought to their knees. Cities would be buried, libraries of knowledge destroyed, and the survivors would be thrown back into a struggle for basic existence. In the aftermath, what would be left? The survivors' primary concern would be food, water, and shelter, not preserving complex astronomical data. The intricate knowledge of the stars, the understanding of the Great Year, would become the stuff of legend, distorted and simplified over countless generations. The precise science would devolve into myth. The memory of a global cataclysm would be encoded in stories of angry gods and world-ending floods. The forgotten calendar, the 26,000-year clock, would become a lost memory of time itself. Think about the sheer number of ancient structures around the world that we still can't fully explain. Places like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, which is an astonishing 11,600 years old, predating agriculture and pottery. It features massive, intricately carved stone pillars aligned with celestial events. Who built it, and why? This site appeared just after the end of the last ice age, a period known as the Younger Dryas, which was marked by extreme and rapid climate shifts and mass extinctions. Could Göbekli Tepe be a message from the survivors of a lost civilization? A desperate attempt to preserve their knowledge of the cosmos, a marker to say, we were here, we understood the heavens, and something terrible happened. Could this be the physical evidence of a forgotten chapter in the human story, a reboot of civilization? This theory suggests that history isn't a straight line of progress from primitive to modern. Instead, it might be a series of cycles, long periods of slow development, punctuated by golden ages of high knowledge, followed by cataclysmic collapse and the long, slow climb back up. We might be just one iteration in a long, repeating story. The idea that sophisticated knowledge could be lost is not so far-fetched. The Roman formula for concrete, which was far more durable than ours, was lost for centuries. The construction techniques for the Great Pyramids are still debated. If we can lose such knowledge in just a few thousand years, imagine what could be erased from memory by a global cataclysm. The memory of time's destruction isn't just a story about the past. It's a profound reminder of our own civilization's fragility. We live on a dynamic planet in a vast and sometimes violent cosmos. The precession of the equinoxes, that slow, graceful wobble of our world, might not just be a celestial curiosity. It could be a cosmic clock, ticking down the ages, reminding us that even the greatest civilizations can be washed away by the tides of time and cosmic change. What do you think? Are these just coincidences and fanciful myths? Or is there a deeper, forgotten truth encoded in the stars and the stones of our ancient past? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every one of them, and I'm really curious to hear your perspective on this. Have you ever felt that feeling of déjà vu, like you've lived a moment before? Or maybe you've dreamt of a future that felt incredibly real. For centuries, humanity has been fascinated by the idea of time travel. We see it in our blockbuster movies and read about it in sci-fi novels. But what if I told you that this obsession isn't new? What if the most cutting-edge ideas in modern physics are echoing whispers from our most ancient ancestors? Today, we're diving deep into a fascinating rabbit hole where science meets myth, and the future might just be a reflection of the past. We'll explore how concepts like wormholes and time dilation, which sound like they're straight out of a physics textbook, have uncanny parallels in ancient legends and spiritual beliefs from around the world. Are scientists on the brink of discovering a truth that ancient cultures already understood in their own way? Stick around, because we're about to bend the fabric of time itself. Let's start with modern physics. When Albert Einstein unveiled his theory of relativity, he didn't just change our understanding of gravity. He fundamentally broke our linear perception of time. His equations showed that time is not a constant, universal clock ticking away at the same pace for everyone. Instead, it's relative. It can stretch and it can shrink. This is called time dilation. Imagine you're on a spaceship traveling close to the speed of light. For you, time would pass much slower than for someone back on Earth. If you took a 5-year journey and returned, you might find that decades or even centuries have passed on your home planet. You would have effectively traveled into the future. This isn't science fiction. It's a proven scientific phenomenon. VLTS satellites, for example, have to account for time dilation every single day to function accurately. Their clocks run slightly faster in orbit than ours do on the ground, and if we didn't adjust for it, your GPS would be off by several miles within a single day. Then there's the even more mind-bending concept of wormholes, or as physicists call them, Einstein-Rosen bridges. Picture the universe as a giant sheet of paper. To get from one point to another, you'd usually travel across the surface. But what if you could fold that paper, bring in the 2 points right next to each other, and punch a hole through? That tunnel is a wormhole, a theoretical shortcut through space-time. If you could create a stable one, it could potentially connect 2 different points in time, allowing for a form of time travel. Now, this all sounds incredibly futuristic, the stuff of advanced civilizations. But here's where it gets truly interesting. Let's rewind the clock, not by a few decades, but by thousands of years. Long before Einstein, ancient cultures were telling stories that sound eerily similar. Take the Japanese legend of Urashima-taro, a fisherman who rescues a turtle. As a reward, he's taken to the Dragon Palace under the sea. He spends what feels like just a few days there, feasting and celebrating. But when he returns to his village, he discovers that 300 years have passed. His home is gone, his family is long gone, and he's a stranger in his own land. This isn't just a fairy tale. It's a perfect narrative illustration of time dilation. He experienced time passing at a different rate, just as an astronaut would near a massive gravitational field or at high speeds. We see similar themes in Celtic mythology. The legendary land of Tir na Nog, the land of eternal youth, was a mythical realm where time moved differently. Mortals who visited this otherworldly place would find that what seemed like a year in Tir na Nog was equivalent to hundreds of years in the human world. Many Irish tales speak of heroes who return from this land to find their world completely changed, their loved ones gone, and themselves ancient. It's not just about traveling to the future. Ancient philosophies also hinted at the nonlinear, cyclical nature of time, much like the closed loops and interconnectedness suggested by some quantum theories. In Hindu cosmology, time is not a straight line. It's cyclical, moving in massive repeating ages called yugas. The universe is created. It exists for billions of years, and then it is destroyed, only to be reborn again in an endless cycle of creation and dissolution. This concept of Kalachakra, or the Wheel of Time, suggests that past, present, and future are not rigidly separate, but are all interconnected within this grand cosmic cycle. The ancient Mayans were obsessive timekeepers with calendars far more complex than our own. Their long-count calendar tracked vast spans of time, also hinting at cyclical patterns of destruction and rebirth. For them, time wasn't just a measurement. It was a sacred living force with its own energy and personality. So, what are we to make of all this? Is it just a coincidence that ancient myths and modern physics seem to be describing the same phenomena, just in different languages? The language of myth and story versus the language of mathematics and equations? Perhaps our ancestors, through deep meditation, spiritual journeys, or other altered states of consciousness, were able to perceive a deeper reality, a reality where the rigid structure of time breaks down. They didn't have the tools to measure it or the math to describe it, so they translated their powerful tool they had, storytelling. The Dragon Palace in Tiernanji might be mythological descriptions of places with intense gravitational fields or alternate dimensions where time flows differently. Think about it. Science is a method of observation and interpretation. We build theories based on what we can see and measure. But what if there are aspects of reality that are beyond our current instruments? The ancient shamans, mystics, and philosophers used their own minds as the laboratory. They explored inner space to understand outer space. Today, theoretical physicists are essentially doing the same, just with a different toolkit. They use mathematics and thought experiments to explore realities that we cannot yet physically access, like the inside of a black hole or the beginning of the universe. They are modern-day mystics, scribbling equations that describe worlds as strange and wonderful as any mythological realm. This doesn't mean that ancient people were secretly building wormhole generators, but it does suggest that the human intuition about the true nature of time might be more accurate than our everyday experience lets on. We experience time as a river, flowing in one direction. But maybe it's more like an ocean with currents, eddies, and depths we are only just beginning to map. The ancients might have been standing at the shore, sensing the power of the tides, while today's scientists are building the vessels to finally explore that vast ocean. What we are witnessing is not a conflict between science and ancient wisdom, but a beautiful convergence. It's a reawakening. Science is not disproving myth. In a way, it's validating the deep human intuition that reality is far more complex and magical than it appears. The idea that past, present, and future are all intertwined is no longer just a philosophical concept. It's a possibility being seriously considered at the highest levels of physics. So, the next time you hear a physicist talk about warping spacetime, remember the tale of Hiroshima Tar. The next time you read about wormholes, think of the magical portals in folklore that lead to other worlds. We are on a journey of rediscovery, using the lens of science to understand the truths that have been encoded in our collective human story for millennia. The future of science might just be in unlocking the secrets of our past. What do you think? Are these just coincidences, or are we tapping into a timeless knowledge? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your theories, and if you know of any other myths that sound like modern science, or maybe you've noticed strange patterns in history, cycles that seem to repeat themselves over and over again. What if I told you this isn't just your imagination? What if our universe and everything within it is part of a grand cosmic clockwork, and the rise and fall of civilizations are just the ticks and tocks of an immense timepiece? Today, we're going on a journey beyond the linear timeline we learn in school. We're going to explore a mind-bending idea that the universe itself is a self-measuring machine, and time isn't just something we move through, it's something the universe does asterisk. Think about the great civilizations of the past. The Egyptians, the Romans, the Mayans. They rose, they flourished, they built wonders, and then they declined. Historians often point to specific reasons: war, famine, political instability. But when you zoom out, a larger pattern emerges. It's a cycle of birth, growth, maturity, and decay. It's almost like a season. Spring brings new life. Summer is a period of peak strength. Autumn sees a slow decline, and winter marks an end, paving the way for a new spring. Could it be that civilizations aren't just collections of people, but are more like complex organisms bound by the same natural laws of life and death? The philosopher Oswald Spengler thought so. He argued that every culture has a lifespan of about 1,000 years. It starts with a burst of spiritual and creative energy, develops its unique art, science, and politics, and then, inevitably, hardens into a final, rigid form before fading away. He saw it not as a tragedy, but as a natural, organic process, as predictable as a flower blooming and withering. This idea of cycles isn't new. Ancient cultures all over the world were obsessed with it. The Hindus have the concept of the yugas, immense ages of cosmic time that cycle from a golden age of truth down to an age of darkness, and then back again. The ancient Greeks spoke of the Great Year, a vast period after which all the planets would return to their original positions, and history would essentially repeat itself. These weren't just myths. They were attempts to understand a deep intuition that time is not a straight line to infinity. It's a wheel. But let's take this idea a step further. What if this cyclical nature isn't just a metaphor for history, but a fundamental property of the universe itself? Imagine the universe not as a stage where events happen, but as a giant, self-contained clock. Every particle, every star, every galaxy is a cog in this machine. The interactions between them, gravity pulling galaxies together, stars being born and dying, aren't random events. They are the precise movements of the clock's hands. In this view, the universe is constantly measuring itself. The expansion of space, the decay of radioactive elements, the speed of light, these are the universe's internal metronomes, keeping a steady cosmic rhythm. Physicists like Julian Barber have proposed radical ideas along these lines. They suggest that time, as we perceive it, this feeling of a past, present, and future flowing in one direction, might be an illusion. Instead, the universe is just a collection of nows, countless individual snapshots of all possible arrangements of matter and energy. What we experience as the flow of time is our consciousness moving from one snapshot to the next, like flipping through the pages of a cosmic flipbook. The reason it seems to move forward is because the universe is evolving towards a state of greater complexity. It's like shuffling a deck of cards. It's far more likely you'll end up with a mixed-up deck than the perfectly ordered one you started with. So, where do humanity, fit into all of this? If the universe is a self-measuring machine, then what is our role? Perhaps we are not just passive observers. Perhaps we are the very instruments through which the universe becomes aware of its own timekeeping. Think about it. Before life emerged, the universe was just happening. The laws of physics were in play, stars were forming, but there was no one and nothing to witness it, to measure it, to give it meaning. Then, life appeared, and eventually, conscious beings like us. We developed calendars based on the cycles of the moon and sun. We built clocks to divide the day. We created physics and cosmology to understand the grand timeline from the Big Bang to the distant future. We are, in a very real sense, the memory and the consciousness of the cosmos. Our entire scientific and cultural endeavor is an attempt to reconstruct the past and predict the future, too. Understand the very mechanism of the clock that created us? Every fossil we dig up, every distant star we observe with a telescope, is an act of the universe looking back at its own history. We are the universe's way of reading its own dial. This perspective changes everything. It means our destiny isn't just to survive or conquer or build empires that will inevitably fall. Our ultimate purpose might be to understand. To comprehend the intricate clockwork that governs the seasons of civilization and the ticking of the cosmos itself. When we study history, we are not just learning about dead kings and forgotten battles. We are learning about the fundamental rhythm of existence. When we study physics, we are not just manipulating equations. We are deciphering the user manual of the universe. We are the part of the system that has evolved to ask, what time is it on a cosmic scale? So the next time you feel small under the vastness of the night sky, remember this. You are not just a speck of dust on a lonely planet. You are a crucial component of a grand, self-aware machine. You are a living, breathing chronometer. The atoms in your body were forged in the hearts of stars that lived and died in a previous cycle of cosmic creation. You carry the history of the universe within you. And your consciousness, your curiosity, your drive to understand that is the universe itself, waking up and trying to figure out how it works. The cycle of civilizations may continue to turn, and our own may one day be a memory for a future age. But the quest for knowledge, the act of measurement and understanding, that is our unique and beautiful contribution to the eternal dance of time. We are the hands of the clock, the tellers of the tale, the meaning makers in a universe that is finally, after billions of years, beginning to know itself. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through time and space. If you enjoyed this exploration and want to dive into more big ideas, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It really helps us continue making content like this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, keep looking up and keep asking questions.